Here is the craft that I'm working on. I'm trying to make a Topsy-Turvy doll, it's called. I made one of these in grade 7, I think it was. And this is an updated version. So on one side is the awake doll in her day dress. And when you flip her over, she's the sleepy time doll in her nightgown. So this is the doll that we have made so far. Which looks hilarious. But we concentrate on her face and she's really cute. Her sleepy time face. I embroidered these. Haven't embroidered in years. And I had a really good picture to look at to do the faces on these, more than what I liked in the original pattern. And now I'm working on the daytime dress, which is this portion. I have the bodice started and I have to finish the sleeves, and then the dress is really wide in order to hide the arms of the other doll. This is the nighttime material, and the bodice is started for this portion too. The sleeves get gathered in, so that'll be the next step. And this big round piece is part of the nightcap. It's a small project, and yet it seems really difficult for me to figure out exactly what I'm doing. I've got one shot of doing this. This is Friday. It has to be done by next Thursday because it's a gift for my 1-year-old granddaughter. My goal is to finish it by then. I've been working on this for weeks, a little bit at a time, because I find it really challenging. Edges of the day dress sleeve, I'm going to serge an edge. There we go, the nicely serged edges. One trick I've learned in sewing recently is using they're not dry erase, they are erasable pens. They're friction pens. So you can draw on your fabric with them. So this is the fold line, but I did use these pens on the faces of the dolls before I embroidered them. And as long as they don't get put into a freezer, which isn't likely to happen, the marks shouldn't show up again. I guess technically, if they're taken out in the winter time here, the little lines could potentially appear again. Hopefully that won't happen. So here we go. I'm just turning it up at that fold line. I could also measure it, which is probably just as easy. It's like a 1/2 inch. Oh, this one has already been ironed off. Because it got too close to the heat, so that little technique didn't help a great deal this time. So the instructions say to stitch to make a casing, which isn't a lot of instruction. So I'm just going to guess where to stitch. I have to insert a 1/4 inch elastic eventually, so it doesn't have to be very wide. The day dress doesn't get any lace on the sleeve edges. I had a heck of a time finding lace in my mid-sized city between Toronto and Montreal. There is one store in our city, Fabricland, that sells fabric and notions, and they did not have the right lace at all that I needed. I ended up going to Michael's, which did have more selection, but still not the right stuff. So making do, it looks pretty. It just doesn't sew on quite the way it should. That's it. Got our little casing for the sleeve edges to insert the elastic. Okay, so trying to sew the elastic into the sleeve. Guessing where it goes. Again, finding where to put things. So that's a slightly gathered sleeve. Okay, this is my third attempt at resewing this sleeve. Didn't want to hear what I was saying when it wasn't working the first 2 times. That looks like it's more tightly gathered this time. Much more like the previous sleeve. So yay! So I have this little gizmo to help insert the elastic. I've never used it before. We'll see how it works. And pull it came out. Just shoving it in this time. More I really need a better stand, or a stand period, because what I'm using is not working. Alright. There's a little edge. So the next step will be gathering the skirt, which is 40 inches wide, onto this little bit again, so that it fits over the upside down doll's arms. We'll be back. Now I'm sewing the underarm sleeves and sides of each bodice, 1/4 of an inch in. You'd think sewing tiny clothes would be easy, but it's not. There's not a lot of room for error. Press that in place, but you can see the finished product. I'll have to try it on the little doll and see how that works. Okay, so I'm sewing lace onto the nightcap. Again, I couldn't find the right type of lace. So I am pressing the lace toward the whole seam, toward the inner portion of the nighttime cap, and then I'll top stitch. So now I'm going to top stitch the lace so it lays flat and proper. Okay, so today we're attaching a 13-inch round of 1/4 inch elastic to the huge bonnet. Looks like a bonnet. And there she is with her little top done. Oh, she's kind of cute. That's a sleepy time doll. Just ignore these other appendages. Sleep. Now I'm adding lace to the bottom of the day dress. Each skirt width is 40 inches or 1 meter, which is huge. And all this has to be gathered up to go around the waist of that tiny little doll. But we'll just concentrate on adding this lace first, 2 inches from the bottom, and I've pinned it, measured it, and pinned it.
No.
Really got to get a tripod. So there we have the lace at the bottom. This is going to be stitched to the bottom of the other dress, so it should be kind of like that. And there's the lace sewn onto the bottom of the night dress. I'm sewing the skirts together, right sides together. I'm doing it different from the pattern, so I hope this is right. And now we press this seam open. So here's what we have now, a double-sided skirt. And then all this has to get gathered up together to fit onto the bodice. That's going to be a tricky part. Now I'm preparing to gather the top edges of the two skirts, and I am sewing over heavy thread with a zigzag stitch. So now I'm just pulling up the heavy thread to make gathers pretty much as tight as it can go. Alright, I have it gathered and the two bodices pinned on, right side to right side, right side to right side. It is so thick, I don't imagine sewing through this is going to be easy at all, so we'll come back when it's done. I am now trying to dress the doll in their dresses, which is kind of tricky because there's extra arms getting in the way. Make sure we get the Sleepy Time doll in her nightgown. There's one. And now we flip her over. It's like dressing a baby. Except in this case you can bend the baby. Look better with hair. Here's the finished wrapping part of the doll's hair. And then I'm going to slide this off, and the idea is to sew along this edge through both sides, I guess, using wax paper. All right, now the idea is to sew down this bundle of yarn, the wax papers, to help it sew without catching on the feed dogs. And I'm using a lengthened stitch. So here we go. Press your foot down helps. My machine is really struggling to get through this. Now I'm going to take off the tape and the wax paper, and we'll see what we have. You know, I keep thinking each step of this doll making process is harder than the last one. And it'll be easy from here on in. However, I have revised that into thinking this is the hardest one. And she just looks like a mess right now. So there we have the day dress doll hair sewn on. This is a lot of hair. It said to make 80 to 100 wraps. I think that was too much. The back of it looks like this, just like, what do you do with this? The instructions said because this was going to a young girl to not clip the strands, because then they would be easier to pull out. That's a really wad of hair right there. That's a lot of hair. So we'll see what happens with that next. But I love the color of the hair. All right, she is done. It was a lot of work, a lot more work than what I expected. This is the Sleepy Time doll. Some lace, little flower up here. Her cap is sewn on with flowers. Again, the cap was way too huge, so I took some off the back of it. The hair was way too huge, so I cut some of her hair off, which worked well on this side of the doll. And then we flip her over for the daytime doll. Her lace can go up or down. I haven't decided whether I want to iron that down or leave it up. And there's a little butterfly detail that I happen to have got from my mother-in-law, which is perfect with the little butterflies on the dress. Overall, I'm very happy, and I hope my little granddaughter will be happy too.